we're mostly packed now. I've just singed my hand on some coffee, so we're going now. We've had a couple of great days here at the cottage. Really good fun. Went to Oxford. Are you going to go to university here then, Jasper?
Yes.
Went to a local crocodile zoo.
Is it real? Is it real? It's very cute.
The only crocodile zoo in the UK. So, I reckon what I'm going to talk about today is how awesome a Tesla is as a holiday car. And there's a few things that I think make it particularly good for holidays. Sorry. Get some stuff into my wife's car. She came in a separate car because, unfortunately, she has to go to work. So she came here a bit late from work and she's going straight off back to work. Yeah, I tell you what, the number one thing about Teslas for me with holidays is space. Oh yeah. Now we supercharged on the way over, so we actually had about 170 miles of range when we turned up, which would have been enough actually to drive around, you know, local area for a few days, and then we could take in the supercharger on the way home. But we don't have to, because just over there is an external plug. And when I turned up, and this is amazing, this is like literally a sign of the changing times. We pulled up and the woman who welcomed us, you know, she showed us around the place. She said, oh, you know, this is that, you know, please make sure you strip the beds and take the bins out when you leave, that kind of the usual stuff. And then she said, well, you can't park over on the concrete section there because of fire regulations. Can you go park on the gravel bit over here? And I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. And she suddenly looked at the car and she went, you're going to want to plug in, aren't you? And she directed me to parking over here where I can use the 3-pin socket. Okay, 3 pins, so it's a bit slow. But you know what it means? It means we're back on 90%, which means we can drive home without stopping, which sounds great, other than the fact that it means that, you know, we're going to stop anyway because we want to get some lunch. It works surprisingly well, having an electric car for this sort of thing. And it wouldn't have been a problem to go further. I mean, the superchargers are great. That's the reason why we turned up and still had 70 miles of range. We could have turned up with 80 miles, which in hindsight probably would have been a more sensible thing to do. But, you know, how it will work in the future, I'm not sure, because there's quite a few potential cars that could be here, and if they all needed to plug in, that would require some sort of proper infrastructure. Finished getting all the stuff into the car, I think. Yeah. Bought the bike, didn't actually use it at all. The weather was just not. Ouch. Frunks are incredibly helpful as well when it comes to packing. Having space available for going on a holiday, whatever, is exactly the reason why I think my next Tesla is likely to be the Cybertruck. And this is I think quite interesting. There's the Cybertruck Tesla Owners Group, which is a thing apparently, they've got a spreadsheet and they're tracking reservation numbers for Cybertruck. And they think there could be as many as 500,000 pre-orders, which actually wouldn't really surprise me, because Elon Musk did say in the earnings call with analysts that they've basically got about 3 or 4 years worth of pre-orders. That's how long it would take them to actually make all of those vehicles. Elon Musk has already tweeted out that the pre-orders are at 250,000, and I suspect they've gone quite a bit higher than that, because 3 or 4 years of full production, maybe they were never planning on making that many of the old Cybertruck, but they absolutely should do, because there's clearly quite a lot of demand, and I would love it. If I'd had the Cybertruck, I would have brought more bikes, which would have been a complete waste of time because it's been chucking it down with rain almost the whole time we were here. But sometimes it doesn't chuck it down with rain in this country. Rarely. Anyway, better head off home. Ouch, my hand is still hurting. Oh, it was not fun. It was enough to put me off coffee. Okay, the route is all planned in, and apparently we will be getting home with 27%, which sounds about right. Even though it's only 115 miles and we're already charged to 90%, because the charging is so unbelievably slow, it doesn't heat the battery up that much. We're going to have a really cold battery when we start off, and a really cold battery in a Tesla means really shocking energy efficiency. Better go crack on with the packing and tidying. Okay, we got everything? Yes, let's go home! I know the original plan was to go home without charging, but there's been an accident on the M25 and I don't want to wait in the traffic, so I figure if we stop and get lunch, that'll give it time to clear up, hopefully. Coffee. Oh, that was probably the main reason we needed to stop. Right, let's get some lunch. I'll tell you, these cars charge way too quickly. It does surprise me quite how much the charging speed has slowed down as my battery's aged. I mean, I know it's quite full at the moment, but still. Of course, the other surprising thing is how little difference that actually makes. I mean, we're still having to rush through our lunch, otherwise the car will be done before we are, and this is on a journey when we don't need to charge anyway. So, there you go. Charging speed, bit of a red herring. If you ask me, I certainly wouldn't pay extra for a car that charged that much quicker, just as long as it does a good sort of 40 kilowatts plus. You know, especially when empty, you want it to do, you know, at least 40 kilowatts. But it's not, you know, an absolutely critical thing. Not as critical as some people make it sound. You know, we need to have a 250 kilowatt charger. Really? You can obviously eat your lunch a lot quicker than I can. Quicker than Jasper can.
That is clear. It's orange.
What is?
It's orange. The traffic's orange.
Yeah, that's actually, we're not going on that bit of road, but yes, the traffic does look better. Hopefully we've missed the vast majority of the traffic now. It's always better anyway to keep the battery more sort of in the middle rather than running it right down. Well, actually, no, it is. It's orange, look, because it's red on the other side. I've been telling Jasper about how you can tell when there's traffic coming or not, based on the sort of, you know, the sat-nav. Okay, so, good news is, we're home. A couple of things just occurred to me whilst I was at the supercharger. Firstly, it always amazes me quite how busy they are, which is great, because that's the whole point, isn't it? They're there, they're being used. Also, another thing that did occur to me, you've got sort of, I don't know, what is it, 12 bays at South Mimms? And then you've got, I think, 1 or 2 other chargers, kind of underwhelming. And the reason why I would always recommend a Tesla over another EV. I mean, to be honest, I think eventually Tesla's going to wind up letting everyone use their charge network. I think it's just at the moment they're not willing to set that up independently, which means that manufacturers would have to go to them and say, please can we use your chargers, and no other manufacturers are willing to take the reputational hit that would be involved with that. And after all, can't they sort out their own drivers with their own charging? The other thing is that charge speed really is a bit of a red herring. As is the fact that charging is a big inconvenience. I mean, it wasn't an inconvenience at all today. If anything, it was a convenience, because it saved me having to sit in a traffic jam that I didn't want to sit in. Because by the time we were back on the road, the traffic jam was basically gone. I'd managed to get my lunch sorted and get some much needed milk for coffees. That journey all the way over to Oxford, about 280 miles we've done in total, and it's cost me nothing. We've arrived back at the house with almost the same level of charge that we left with. A couple of quid for almost 300 miles. Jasper was saying, I want to get a Lamborghini for my first car, and I was telling him that would cost, I don't know, £150 to do the same journey, which, yeah, okay, if you can afford a Lamborghini, you don't care about the cost of the fuel, I guess. but I can't afford a Lamborghini and I do care about the cost of the fuel. Can't remember if I've mentioned it in these few vlog posts, but this front luggage is fantastically useful. Always recommend front luggage for Teslas. It makes the front vastly more useful. So there you go, Oscar and Hamish. Highly recommend the front luggage. Actually, they do a lot of good bags for the back as well. Plus, they did give me these for free, so I like to try and mention how awesome they are, you know, whenever I can. And the last point that I wanted to make of today's vlog post is to do with battery temperature, because basically I have noticed that certainly this year it seems like my energy efficiency has been nothing like as good as I you know, when I first had this car, even in winter I would regularly get, I don't know, something like 280 watt hours per mile, which is pretty good, honestly. And I did drive slowly and carefully, but I'd still drive slowly and carefully. And yet these days it seems to be more like 330, 350, 400 watt hours per mile. And I think I know what the difference is. And it's difficult to know how much this is the battery aging and how much it is the fact that there's been so many different versions of the software. Maybe it's just making the car less efficient to heat the battery up more to begin with. That's possible, I really don't know. One thing is for sure, however, it is much less efficient while the battery is heating up than it used to be. And I think this probably is to do with battery age, to be honest, but there's good news. When the battery's cold, you are sort of by default not doing a lot of miles, otherwise the battery would be warm. And if you're not doing a lot of miles and you've got a car with a 200-mile range, then obviously it isn't that critical whether the efficiency is great or not, because you're just going a short distance. If you're going a longer distance, so after the first 30 miles on the way back, guess what? Battery was fully warmed up. We were back to around 280, 290 watt hours per mile, something like that. I wasn't going fully 70 miles an hour on the way home, but that was mainly because the traffic was, you know, quite a lot heavier. Yeah, it's the middle of the day on a Friday, so yeah, the traffic was heavier. So I think that's quite an interesting point here, because it's another one of those things that you don't really realise until you've got an EV. You know, you think, oh my goodness, that battery's cold, it's winter, it's going to be a disaster. But that's not how it works. Just wanted to share that with you guys, because I think that is another useful and interesting way that my car has changed as it's aged. And that's one of the big things that I try and do with my channel, is show you guys what the long-term ownership experience is like with a Tesla. And so far, 5.5 years in and 125,000 miles down the road, it's good. I hope you've enjoyed today's vlog post. If you have, remember to like it, share it, subscribe if you haven't already, follow me on Instagram and Twitter if you don't already, and I will see you in the next installment of my vlog. Bye! And then she looked at the car and she went, oh, but you're going to want to plug in, aren't you?
Hang on.
No, she didn't say hang on, she said you're going to want to plug in, aren't you? Oh, and Soph's got my running shoes. Hello! Yes, I'm coming and helping. I'm not going anywhere.